Um, Welcome, and thank you for registering for the League of Women Voters Caucus for Cybersecurity, for Privacy and Cybersecurity today. I'm Becky Gladstone, President of the League of Women Voters of Oregon, and this webinar, including video, audio, chat, and Q&A, will be recorded and shared on League websites. Please be aware that by participating in any of these, your communications will be recorded and used for educational purposes. Let's see. Welcome to the webinar. You should have gotten an email from us with instructions for participating. Here are some tips for using Zoom. Below the participants window where you see our faces, is a raise hand button. Click on this if you have a quick question. A panelist may ask you to type your question in chat. Under the panelist images is a Q&A button. Click that to open the Q&A panel and you can type a question in there. Where are you? A number of you have been putting in your names and where you are joining us from. So we don't need to test the chat because you're doing a good job. That's great. Let's see. I'm dialing in, zooming in from the Oregon tribal lands of the Kalapuya people today. We're thankful for this remote format that's bringing us together safely. We miss seeing you in person. I'd like to take a moment to thank the other members of our study committee, our chair, Mary Sinclair, editor Sheila McGinnis, and also I know a bunch of you who have been editors and experts who assist us are in our audience. Welcome, thank you for joining us. And now I'd like to turn over to a member who agreed to present for us, Jess Daly.
Thanks, Rebecca. I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen with you now and my audio. And welcome, we're so happy to have you. We're gonna go ahead and get started.
We are delighted that you can join us, and we have planned what will hopefully be an engaging and entertaining conversation for you today. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to be sure everyone is prepared for the interactive portion of the presentation coming up a little bit later. Please take a moment to follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to use your smartphone to participate. These directions appear in the packet of materials emailed to you prior to today's event, and the directions will appear again later in the presentation during the question and answer. So don't worry if you can't get signed in right away. There are 3 different ways to sign in using your phone. You can just pick one of them. You can scan the code on the screen with your phone to go to the activity. You can send a secret code by text message by entering the phone number 37607 and then entering the secret code BrainyPants628 into the text window, then pressing send. You can also open the web browser on your phone and go to pollev.com/brainypants628. Like I said, there'll be another opportunity later in the presentation. Also, don't feel pressured to participate. If you would rather just kick back and observe, that's no problem at all. Interaction is voluntary, and there will be plenty of on-screen action to watch. If you get inspired, you can use the Zoom's chat feature during the Q&A session to ask questions. There's no phone needed for this. In the Zoom controls at the bottom of your webinar window, just click or tap the chat icon. All right, let's begin the presentation. The League of Women Voters of Oregon conducted the study Privacy and Cybersecurity Today in 2019. The team behind the study includes our president of the Oregon League, Rebecca Gladstone, Mary Sinclair, she's our study chair, and our study editor, Sheila McGinnis. I'm Jess Daly, your presenter. I'm the newest member of the team, a weeks-old member of the Oregon League, and I am also a cybersecurity and privacy policy analyst. While I didn't have the pleasure of working on this particular study, I am delighted to speak to the convention today about the study and about where this determined team is taking the project next. Today's agenda breaks down into 4 simple sections. First, we will discuss key findings from the Privacy and Cybersecurity Today study. We will be focusing on a brief breakdown of 3 critical issues that our research suggests merit a collaborative and nationwide approach in order to address. Second, we will explore the Oregon League's vision for a privacy and cybersecurity collaboration group and what that entails. Third, we will chat with a special guest about how to get involved. Finally, we will conclude the presentation with an interactive Q&A session. This interactive session is optional and designed to explore issues of our study a little deeper. It will allow for a bit more of a collaborative conversation than webinars usually allow. Today study in 2019 in order to form a state position surrounding these issues. The study is a practical and not intimidating overview of the pressing and multifaceted issues that connect to a broad set of topics. It is written and designed to be useful and consumable to the average voting person, not just tech folks. The study even comes with an excellent glossary to prepare you for any jargon or lingo you might encounter. Today, I'm not here to talk you through every detail of our study. We trust that you can read it on your own. Today, we want to use this convention opportunity to have a more targeted conversation about what we found and how we intend to move forward. There is a growing necessity in the digital age to protect the personal identity and privacy of individuals while still providing an open and secure flow of information in cyberspace that then benefits individuals and society. The League of Women's Voters needs a strong position to address privacy and cybersecurity. It is our intent to develop an informed League position on these issues and seek a broad-based endorsement for concurrence at the 2022 League of Women's Voters National Convention. We will be overviewing 3 critical issues that our research indicates deserve urgent and collaborative national action. Let's begin with voting in elections. Our study found that it's widely accepted the U.S. needs comprehensive election security. The League of Women's Voters has always supported voting rights and has supported voting system security since 2006, so it's appropriate that we would be active in this area. Now, there are essentially 2 ways to hack an election. Comprehensive election security includes both physical measures as well as addressing the social and behavioral vulnerabilities surrounding our ability to be informed voters. According to the Brennan Center for Justice, physical election security includes upgrading voting machines and critical infrastructure, replacing paperless voting machines with systems that have paper backups, better security for registration databases, increased training for local cybersecurity staff, emergency and disaster recovery, planning to mitigate both cyber damage from hacks and natural disasters, and also to conduct risk-limiting audits in order to validate reported election results. That's what's traditionally thought of as hacking. Someone attains unapproved access to the voting machines or software and then manipulates or deletes the votes. Then there is this new kind of hacking that's also known as social engineering. This kind of hacking doesn't focus on machines or software at all. It relies on the behavioral patterns of humans. It counts on humans being trusting, kind, curious, interested, ignorant of their situation, or all of the above. It is very difficult to defend against. However, users that practice proper cyber hygiene are less vulnerable. Voters also need factual, unbiased information to participate in a free and fair election process. When voters do not have honest, trustworthy information, simply protecting and securing voting systems and infrastructure will not assure election security. Bonus tip, there are great resources on cyber hygiene included in the study and that super handy glossary that helps explain some of these lingo terms like cyber hygiene. So, hacking. When you hear the Russians were trying to hack the 2016 election, that probably means that they were both gaining access to physical machines and manipulating social media, news media, creating fake media, and generally inciting social divisions and distrust in our election systems by manipulating voters and their own perception of how valuable their votes are. Here we have some short clips explaining how easy it can be to proliferate this kind of information and how easy it can be to attack actual voting machines in real life.
So we're going to start with this clip here. We're just going to look, this is a DEF CON conference, and we're going to watch someone break into a voting machine live.
This is the AccuVote TSX. It's used in 18 different states, 8 of which are swing states. It's going to start rebooting, and you're going to see that it's having trouble rebooting because there's no card reader. And now you have full admin access on this machine. So you can disrupt the election, you can disrupt people's confidence in the election. When you think about admin access, you can think about like keys to the castle. When you have admin access, you own the machine. You can get it to do what you want it to do. So you can imagine that being very nefarious.
US elections are so complex that we humans cannot do a manual count. We are dishonest and we are error prone. So we have to use machines, while we know that the machines are hackable. So now the question is, we use the machine and now we verify the results by doing a risk limiting audit, and this is where you know that the machine didn't cheat. But you cannot trust machine as of a paper ballot.
We've also got a second video here, and I want to start this video with a little disclaimer. We don't intend to advertise this special or endorse it in any way, but there is pertinent information here that we'd like to share with you. And it also includes some of the characters from the last video that run the DEF CON conference.
Voting is our capability to have a peaceful transfer of power. If you don't have that, the alternatives are revolutions.
We call them voting machines, but they're nothing more than obsolete computers.
2002 is when they put them in service.
A commonly used argument, they are never connected to the internet.
No voting machines are connected to the internet.
Not connected to the internet.
Not connected to the internet, and therefore cannot be attacked.
Oh, it wants to go to internet. That's very nice.
In 2016, we know that Russian actors targeted state election systems.
When people say no votes were changed, it misses the point.
Imagine you go in and flip the digits of everybody's address.
When you prevent people from casting a ballot, you've hacked an election.
Hackers are a wonderful resource. Every voting machine in this room is in use in next election. We are here 3 days a year. The real adversaries, they run it 24/7 with massive funding.
We are in.
Hari takes it personally when people do stupid things with technology. What do you think the security pin is?
They upgraded to 111111. That was not a joke.
We may be buying the world's best 20th century military when the battlefront is election security.
I had full access. I could have changed any vote.
It's called a kill chain. Weaponization, paralyzation, when the governments cannot take action, that's when you finish the target.
So we got some pretty scary stuff there. We're going to go ahead and continue with the presentation. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about what social engineering looks like in elections. And let me go ahead and share my screen here and continue.
Online misinformation can include misleading content or sensationalized information that's called clickbait, which lures you to a bad website that can take advantage of you in various ways. Targeted disinformation campaigns are often run by nation states and can also micro-target individual users based on their personal information. Manipulated media usually includes deepfake videos, manufactured amplification, and distorted information retrieval like manipulated search results. Things like voice cloning, targeted disinformation campaigns, and manufactured amplification, or bot networks, can be very damaging to public health, obscuring important public health and safety messaging. Bot networks are used to spread false information or manipulate social media feeds. A bad actor essentially creates hundreds or thousands of fake accounts to spread their message in what may look like a viral phenomenon, the way important or breaking news is often disseminated online. But in fact, just one person or a small group of individuals are running these fake accounts and all their viewpoints. The most recent example are the discovery by researchers at MIT about bots tweeting about the coronavirus. They estimate that nearly half the accounts tweeting to reopen the economy are in fact fake bots and not people. Disinformation contaminates public discourse and erodes democracy, justice, and public trust. The International Foundation for Electoral Systems explains that you can regulate content. You can criminalize disinformation campaigns. You can use social media monitoring or even reclassify social media to apply traditional media definitions to social media companies and thereby increase data privacy.
We're going to go ahead and look at a couple other videos right now. And we've got Danielle Citron. She's a MacArthur Fellow, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about deepfakes. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. How does deepfakes work? Let's see if we can get a little insight into just how easy this is. When he says what is this, he's talking about the picture of President Obama here driving these still pictures to make a video that mimics the driving video that has the blue arrow.
So, what was this? I promise to tell you in a moment, but to understand what happened here, first, let's have a look at this deepfake technique we showcased a few videos ago. As you see, we are at a point where our mouth, head, and eye movements are also realistically translated to a chosen target subject, and perhaps the most remarkable part of this work was that we don't even need a video of this target person, just one photograph. However, these deepfake techniques mainly help us in transferring video content. So, what about voice synthesis? Is it also as advanced as this technique we are looking at? Well, let's have a look at an example, and you can decide for yourself. This is a recent work that goes by the name Techotron 2, and it performs AI-based voice cloning. All this technique requires is a 5-second sound sample of us and is able to synthesize new sentences in our voice as if we uttered these words ourselves. Let's listen to a couple examples.
The Norsemen considered the rainbow as a bridge over which the gods passed from Earth to their home in the sky.
Take a look at these pages for Crooked Creek Drive. There are several listings for gas station. Here's the forecast for the next 4 days.
Wow, these are truly incredible.
I'm going to go ahead and switch screens again. Can you guys all see me?
Yes.
Great.
Moving on. Our study found that the U.S. lacks comprehensive consumer data protections in e-commerce. User choice and company notice and consent protocols often fail to provide meaningful personal data protection. The Federal Trade Commission oversees consumer information privacy and lacks meaningful enforcement authority. Current laws emphasize personal data protections based on which service provider holds and controls the data, not who creates the data in the first place, you. E-commerce is based on sector-specific and sometimes voluntary regulation. Much personal information may not be protected. Only in these specific instances is your personal data required to be reasonably protected by a company controlling it under U.S. law. You can see from the graphic that this applies to information about health, children, data about finances, and student information reporting. Data controllers essentially own your data. This is because you sign away permissions surrounding your data every time you click a privacy policy. What's more worrying is that researchers at Carnegie Mellon estimate that it would take 76 working days each year to actually read all the privacy policies that you encounter throughout the course of the year. No one has time for that. And it seems as though the economy couldn't afford it either. $781 billion in lost productivity if we actually read them all. The term privacy policy may be a misnomer. What these policies are, in fact, are data use policies. Most of the data trail you create isn't considered to belong to you. Companies control this data. This includes things like the actual image of your face, your location, your travel patterns, your viewing habits, the online activities that you create that create the very detailed picture of everyone's lives. So your data doesn't belong to you under US law.
But you might not know that because it takes too long.
So we see from these trends that economic growth and internet commerce expansions are generally being prioritized over consumer protections. But it seems like things are a little out of balance. Massive profits are accumulated while the user remains largely unprotected and uncompensated. The Internet of Things, or IoT, includes almost any device that's always connected to the internet most of the time. Many are always on or always listening for a keyword or observing and collecting information passively like a smart fridge or a home security system. Devices like Siri, Alexa, Google Home, Nest, fitness trackers, etc. are part of the Internet of Things or considered always-on devices. Bain Capital predicts the combined market for the Internet of Things will grow to about $520 billion in 2021. That's more than double what people spent on it in 2017. Data center analytics, where all this information is processed from all of these always-on devices, will be the fastest growing IoT, Internet of Things segment, estimated to reach a 50% compound growth rate, meaning it grows by 50% every year. These always-on devices that are constantly collecting data are also constantly monetizing that data by pumping it into things like massive artificial intelligence projects, selling it to data brokers, or selling it to ad tech agencies. When data privacy is violated, users have very limited legal remedies to hold companies accountable. So this means we're making companies a lot of money, but we have very few protections.
So at this point, we're going to stop. We've gone through some pretty heavy topics in a short amount of time. We're going to have a little bit of a break. This is a video that we want to share with you. A time-traveling reporter has gone from the 1990s and is in the year 2020 and trying to explain exactly what it is that people are doing in this day and age. So let's check in.
Okay, anyway, Google has a bunch of services, right, on the internet, and these things are supposed to make people's lives more convenient. Wow, and how much do all these services cost? Usually nothing. But how does that work? Well, in the future, people agree to get to use Google's services, and in exchange, all they have to do is give up their privacy. Oh my god, what? Yeah, usually when you use these services, you agree to a huge document of all these terms and conditions of all the stuff that Google can do with your personal information. And people read through these whole things and accept them? No, they don't read them, but they accept them. They do accept them, yeah. Why would they? Well, if they don't accept them, they don't get to use the service. It's kind of a take it or leave it situation. It feels like people should read the terms and conditions. Yeah, but they're long and complicated and boring, and it's a lot more fun to just use the thing you want to use right away. Did you happen to find out what kind of information Google collects from people? I did, yeah. It's just some basic stuff like terms you search for, videos you watch, your views and interactions with content and ads, voice and audio information, purchase activity. Wow, you know what? That is a lot. Phone number. Oh, there's more. Types of phone calls you make, online activity, just in general, sensor data from all your devices, your age, your interests, places you go, IP address, home address, contact information, and more. But it's convenient, though? Extremely. Well, I love it, and I imagine it's pretty good for the economy. Yeah, I guess, although Google does not pay taxes. Oh, holy shit.
So we'd like to thank Ryan George for giving us permission to use that video today. And we're going to go ahead and continue here. Our study also found that U.S. policy is fragmented in the cybersecurity and privacy area.
Uniform. The patchwork of federal and state laws and regulations do not provide comprehensive privacy protection for U.S. citizens.
Without a single comprehensive federal law regulating the use and collection of personal data, consumers are responsible for protecting themselves, a seemingly impossible task because, as we discussed, users in the US do not control or own their own data in most situations. Consumer privacy protections are primarily regulated by states. In the absence of federal protections, they are filling the void. 25 states have their own data privacy laws governing the collection, storage, and use of data from their citizens. You can see from the graphic here from the National Conference of State Legislatures that in 2018, a few light green states enacted legislation. In 2019, the dark green states enacted legislation, and the yellow states considered legislation. And the blue states created a task force about consumer data privacy. And this is exciting progress. However, complying with 50 different state laws is hard to navigate and expensive for US businesses that are used to operating across state lines, as the internet knows no borders. Congress passed narrow and industry-specific privacy laws in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that we mentioned earlier, targeting health, finance, children, and students in certain situations. Now, the European Union's General Data Protection Regulations, or GDPR, and California's recently passed California Consumer Protection Act, or CCPA, are considered the most relevant examples for national adoption. These laws generally grant rights to users. They grant data rights to users and allow specific avenues for recourse when those data rights are violated. But there are contentions to both laws, including the argument there is an undue burden on small businesses, the argument there are giant loopholes that make regulations moot, and little to no enforcement mechanisms mean firms are not held substantially accountable. Additionally, New York has proposed a kind of data fiduciary duty that would have given the user the strongest protections that we've seen at this point in time, because they provide a fiduciary burden for data brokers, meaning they could only use that data if it was in the data owner's best interest, or fiduciary interest. However, that bill failed in the New York Senate and has yet to be revived. So in summary, I'd like to briefly talk about the key findings. The US is lacking comprehensive elections security. E-commerce and data protections need to be improved, and privacy policy is fragmented. Personal data protections need to be more robust in the United States. Given that these are the key findings, it's not very hard to understand why 91% of consumers feel that they have lost control over how their personal information is created and used by companies. Collected. And that's according to a 2014 Pew Research study. So now what? So where do we go from here on such an expansive issue? The Information Technology and Innovation Foundation predicts that comprehensive data privacy legislation is likely to entail a common set of protections. It's probably going to preempt state laws. It will aim to improve transparency requirements and strengthen enforcement mechanisms. It will also aim to establish a clear set of data privacy rights for Americans based on sensitivity of data and the context in which it is collected. The overarching policy challenge for regulators will be to make trade-offs among consumer privacy, free speech, technical innovation, business productivity, and U.S. economic competitiveness. These are all tall orders in highly contentious arenas. So, to tell us more about the plan on how we move from this space, I'd like to introduce the president of the Oregon League of Women's Voters, Rebecca Gladstone.
Hi there, can you see me and hear me? I hope so. Thank you for the very active, vigorous chat. I'm so glad you're all so well engaged. I want to clarify and reiterate at this point, because Jess has said some of this in the pre-recorded presentation. We, the League of Women Voters of Oregon, we are calling for a national privacy and cybersecurity concurrence at our LWVUS Convention 2022. In order to advocate for improved policies, we would all benefit from combining our many contemporary positions, because pressing challenges arise now every day. We wish we had a policy position to share for this convention, concurrence. Our now completed study was approved to begin in May 2019, so it's been a pretty quick turnaround so far. We'll present our policy for approval at our May 2021 LWVOR convention. We're inviting you to collaborate with us because we want to expand support for a national concurrence. Our study purposely addresses many issues. We highlight serious policy inconsistencies from state to state, a lack of overarching national policy across a broad range of fast-changing privacy and cybersecurity issues. Addressing this complex array of topics will benefit from our coordination. We know that other states are interested. Obviously, you're demonstrating it right here in the chat. Thank you. Perhaps you may wish to concur with our study, with our position in your state or local league. We would like to arrive at the LWVUS Convention 2022 with a chorus of support. You may have studies that are underway or will be completed to add to this by then. Let's put our heads together. We look forward to presenting a strong concurrence at LWVUS 2022, the National Convention, with you. For more information, and you're seeing this in the chat, thank you to our crew that's adding in. Please email us at cyberstudy@lwvor.org. We will have a chance for direct questions. In the meantime, we're playing around a little bit with some polling. Back to presenter Jess, thank you.
All right, here we go. Let's make sure we're sharing the right screen. You see my dinosaur? Everybody see my dinosaur? All right, well, let's get going.
Fragmented. It is not uniform.
Here we go, next steps, that's what we want.
Okay, well, this concludes the webinars portion of the session. And now we would like to go ahead and take a moment to put the interactive Q&A portion instructions back up on the screen. So again, we'll remind you there are 3 ways to sign in with your phone if you'd like to participate. You can scan the code here with your phone. You can send a text message to 37607 with the secret code in the message, BrainyPants628. Or you can open your phone's web browser and go to pollev.com/BrainyPants628. And again, if you have absorbed way too much information and you'd rather just kick back and relax, that's no problem at all. You can also use the Zoom chat to interact if you feel the urge to share your thoughts, or you have a question for the moderators. Again, participation is totally voluntary, and there will be a lot going on screen to keep you occupied if you don't feel like interacting with the chat session. All right, here we go.
Okay, then we're up. We've got the polls. Let's see if anyone's actually answered yet. We'll go ahead and check in. It looks like we've got some responses already, so that's great news. And just let it catch up here. Sorry about the lag. And we're going to go ahead and full screen this. And let's look at everyone's responses. So what's your biggest policy concern surrounding cybersecurity and privacy? Now you guys will see the screen change as people add their answers. The bigger answers are going to show up larger because more people have said that specific concern. So we see right now elections and privacy are the biggest concerns. Democracy, distortion, election security, these are great. At the end of the presentation, we're going to go ahead and screenshot these and we'll send them out with the extra materials. Oh, I'm so excited that so many of you are able to participate. This is very exciting. So we've also got contacts harvesting, corporations, online censorship, surveillance. Well, great. Now that we know that the polling software is working, I'm going to go ahead. You can stop entering your answers. I'm going to move on to the next question. And that'll keep updating. We can go back to it. So I'm curious, you guys can choose either A, B, or C to input your answer. And I want to know if you've ever been hacked. Have you ever had your identity, your financial information, or your health information compromised? You can go ahead and press A, B, or C. A is for yes, B is not that I know of, and C is more than once. Let's go ahead and show your responses. 48% of respondents have said yes, 47% say not that I know of, and 6% of you have been compromised more than once. Now you'll notice on these options, there's no answer. And that's because it's probable that if you have not had your information compromised, you just don't know it, which is a little unsettling, but also reminds us to stay vigilant. Oh, it looks like our data is, we've got not that I know of and yes are neck and neck, about half and half. More than once, it was creeping up. Oh, back down to 7%. So we can see, get a pretty good idea. It's about a little bit more than not have had your information stolen or compromised in some way. All right, we're going to go on to the next question. The app will stop accepting answers for this question when I move on to the next one. Now, is your league already working on policy issues related to privacy and cybersecurity? If yes, please respond by texting your state, county, or city name. And yes, this can be state or local leagues. I'm going to go ahead and show the responses. Ohio. Yes. Yes, you are. Yes. If you also, you can put this information in the chat too. Oh, look, we've got Oregon, Virginia, Ohio. I know that there are a lot of states out there that are leading the way in cybersecurity, and I know that a lot of you are in the audience, so I'm excited to see who's working on what. Let's see. I am gonna butcher some of these pronouncements. Kootenai, and we've got Pittsburgh, the greater Idaho, Wyoming, looks like Los Angeles, Los Alamos, and let's see, New Mexico. All right, this is great. I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next question. It looks like we don't have as many responses to that one as I thought we would, but that's okay. We'll probably have a lot going on in the chat that I'm not seeing right now. So let's go ahead and move on to our next question. Have you had the chance to read our study? Boom, there it is. Answer A for yes or B for not yet. And we know you want to get to it, so we can go ahead and show your responses. And these should be propagating soon. Let's go ahead and see. You can text A for yes or B for not yet. Oh, 12%. I'll take it. 18, 20, 19. All right. Well, for those of you who haven't had the chance to read it yet, we're going to show a link at the end of this. We're going to put up a big link where you can check out everything and also email us for more information. We've got 25% of you have read the study? 27? This is exciting. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. It was a little self-indulgent question there. And this is the last question we're going to do on the online polling, and then we're going to go to the live Q&A where Rebecca will take your questions. So which one of these topics is most important to you? These are all topics that we covered in the broader study that weren't necessarily represented in the representation, or in the presentation, excuse me. So you can go ahead and click A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K to enter your answer. And we'll go ahead and show them. We've got medical, surveillance, biometrics, election and news media, elections and voting security, elections and social engineering, the Internet of Things, privacy in general, cyber hygiene, policy and regulation, or maybe you're just here to socialize. Let's go ahead and show your responses. Oh, wow. Voting and election security is way up there. That is very encouraging to see that there are a lot of people concerned about these topics. We've got, looks like privacy in general and news media are neck and neck. Elections and social engineering is coming in second. That's a very big issue we're dealing with. And then elections and news media is number 9. We do have one person here that's just socializing in the time of Corona, and that's okay. Biometrics popped up on the screen, and we've got 5% for the Internet of Things. This is great. This is gives us a really good idea of where everyone's focus is. So at this point, I am going to go ahead and ask you straight up, are you interested in sending a representative from your league to our Privacy and Cybersecurity Collaboration Concurrence Group? If you would like to absolutely send someone, go ahead and enter A. If you would like to learn more about the process, go ahead and enter B. And yes, we are also working on these issues in our league and are enthusiastic about joining. So there's a few questions, there's a few answers there, and then we'll show the responses. Oh, this is exciting. We got about 25% of you, 23% of you is a hard yes. The other 75% want to know more, and looks like we got 5% that's already busy on these issues. This is very exciting. Oh, 6%. Well, I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to the group so we can do some live question and answers from your chats. So we can go ahead and really quickly just check in with that first question. Do you have a question for the team? And if you want to send your question here, that's fine. And if you want to send it in chat, that's fine. But right now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and send it back to Rebecca.
Hi there. This is a vigorous discussion. I'm so pleased. Clearly, we do not have a naive, technologically illiterate crew, and I'm so pleased to see that. However, let's clarify that I don't want to get into discussions about details of cybersecurity for one small aspect or another. Someone mentioned meter readers. There are other things these really matter, but our time here is limited today. We have a few more minutes before many of us will go on to our next caucus. So I'm open to questions. Let's see. You can tell where to contact us. Somebody asked in chat how many people are on the call. We had, I think, about 220 registered, and of course, it varies as people come and go a little bit or get disconnected with their internet, who knows, but I think we have in the neighborhood of 200 people on the call. Thanks for asking. Let's see, thanks for sharing the study. Want to talk about cyber hygiene. Let me reinforce that we cannot contact you. We can say thank you for attending, perhaps in one email follow up legally, but we need for you to respond to cyberstudy@lwvor.org in order for us to be legal for privacy issues for probably the California Consumer Privacy Act, which will apply elsewhere. I'm not quite sure where, and these things are fast-moving targets. So please do write to us and we'll follow up with you. You can always unsubscribe or define the extent to which you want to participate. Of course, I am president of a state league. I consult my board before I speak too. So I respect that responsible reply of, we don't know how much we're going to participate because we have to talk to the board about this. I think we just lost the screen. Oh, okay, you can see the address where to write to. We had there's another question in Q&A. Okay. During Zoom candidate debates, I would like to answer this personally because a lot of my experience, and before I came to the League, was direct campaign work as a campaign worker. I care a lot about voter survey. Discussing this with the president of the California State League, and if you can to some of the League leaders chat groups, we're definitely discussing this. This is both in Google groups and in Facebook closed groups. Following up with security for forums and debates, it's a big relevant question, and we don't have the time to answer that today, but let's pick up on the discussion. Do write to us. More questions? Let's see. These slides, we will share this information. We are happy to share this. If you go to look at the registration email sent along with our study, there are several other features, including a video of a presentation we made in Portland with the Director of Elections there, specifically talking about features that vote by mail. Let's see, what else have we got? Questions. Our proposed timeline is that every league has a little bit different timeline. We don't all have councils and conventions on the same schedule. So when you bring your studies for approval for adoption to begin, and when you complete them, when you have your positions proposed and adopted from your consensus discussions, those will all vary a little bit. So we're hoping that we can bring a strong, multifaceted concurrence to national convention in 2022. We're not talking about doing a national study because the national study could not be proposed until 2022, and then it would begin possibly for adoption in 2024. So this is a concurrence we're suggesting here. Let's see. Liz Bander, thank you for commenting in the chat that we do have that the League of Women Voters is not flat-footed and asleep at the wheel on election security. We're talking about specific aspects of cybersecurity and privacy here. And of course, as you could see from some of the videos, directly applies to election security, both the technical, physical, machine hacking, and what some people would call psyops, the misinformation and playing with voters' heads like, oh, my vote doesn't really matter. That's where the League comes in. That's where our strength is. Do the definitions of your study include the term cyber hygiene? Never heard of that before. Actually, this was a little bit contentious because some of our study members thought it was just too cutesy and kind of unprofessional. I have to tell you, this is a term that's used in the industry. It's used by government officials. It's welcome. We have a whole handout. We had three goals in doing this study. One was to help educate our members, some of whom are naive and not stupid, not uninformed. That's to protect ourselves, a primary goal. Another was to review the range of topics to educate ourselves on this, and then to look at policy, because we want positions from which we can advocate in our legislature and to bring as a national concurrence. Incidentally, if you're doing studies on these things now, be sure they're listed in the National Clearinghouse of League Studies, and write to us, ask us about it. We'd be happy to update you on that. Let's see, more questions. We haven't talked about very much about how we can collaborate, and we would like to follow up on that in July. To some extent, you may not be able to use what we're offering until we have a completed adopted position, but otherwise we're happy to share our findings, and we can talk to you about joining your study group by Zoom. Please do be in touch. There's a lot going on in the chat about passwords. I use a password manager. Change your passwords. Don't put your password up in front of a screen on your camera for your laptop.
We've got a question here about adoption of the Oregon. So can you tell us when Oregon is going to decide what their position is? Is that 2021?
I'm happy to talk about that. How much time have we got? We've got another minute or so. Our study is complete. You can read it online. I really encourage you to read it. We put a lot of great graphics into it, and some of it is terrifically dense, but it's compelling because it's really relevant for all of us. We need to know this material. The study is complete. We decided to extend our consensus discussion timeline from April and May of this year, so that, because we anticipated an extremely active voter service season, which kind of got nipped in the buds by COVID-19. So everything goes to Zoom. Here we are. So we are getting consensus input from our members already and over the summer. This is ongoing. On the other hand, we did agree to this, and some of our leagues need the time because they fill their schedules with other things. So we expect all of our consensus input will be received by just after the election this fall. And then our member consensus committee will come up with a policy position in December when none of us has too much to do. And then it should be complete by January to be presented to the board for consideration and adoption for recommendation in February to our May 2021 state convention, which should be on the beautiful Oregon coast. You should come and visit as soon as COVID is done. Next question. Do we have any more questions?
We have a question about local leagues in Oregon and how many of them are participating in this.
How many are participating in consensus? Well, it's ongoing, and we are stretching the model a little bit. Most of our leagues do participate, but we do have online individuals meeting by Zoom to discuss this. And that's really powerful because some of these people wouldn't otherwise, COVID notwithstanding, be able to join us. So they can join us virtually. And we're counting on doing that with you too.
We need to take a minute and wrap things up. It looks like we're getting towards the end.
We have, 13 local leagues? We've had 3 that have started that are units and are edging on, what do we have to do with the IRS to become fully fledged leagues? But big growth. We hope you're seeing that too. Anything else?
I'm going to go ahead and share the email address on the screen one last time before everybody takes off. And thank you for coming. You can email us at cyberstudy@lwvor.org.
Thank you all. 117 of you. We're losing fast. Farewell, safe, be what we need.
Thank you.